Hello, this is Chloe, and sadly, there will be no Zoe today. But if you still plan on sticking around, welcome to the 7th episode of Swear We Aren't Lying. However, before we continue, where is Zoe? Well, she is currently serving coffee to a bunch of campers, and I have to work backstage this weekend. So, since we don't really know when we're going to be able to meet up again, we're going to start introducing a couple episodes that are sort of like this, where we tackle topics by ourselves or we just share a quick story that doesn't involve each other, but we think would be really entertaining to talk about on the podcast. So I hope that you guys still like this episode. I don't even know if it'll be a full 30 minutes. I don't even think I can talk that long without Zoe here to bounce off of. So it might be half the time, 15 minutes tops. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about my K-pop experience since I just went to a P1 Harmony concert and I'm still on cloud 9 from that. So I think that this is just the right episode to kind of go about. So I will be sharing what my first concert was like, how everyone needs to go to at least one K-pop concert in their life, and my spicy moment with one of the idols. So to start off this episode, I have a couple questions. One that is submitted by one of you. Thank you so much to my cousin Katie for helping me out here, because that is the question I will be starting with. And then also Zoe sent in a few questions to help me out with this episode. So it kind of feels like she's here, even though she isn't. So, first question by Katie is, do you think the real life relationships you saw or were exposed to impacted you as much as the fictional ones you discussed? And man, that is quite the thinker. That is a question that is right up my alley though, because it's super interesting to really look back on. I think that a lot of the relationships I was exposed to growing up were pretty toxic, honestly. And I was quite an observant kid. Um, you know, being a younger sibling of an older sibling that's like 5 years older than you, kind of helps you out because you kind of just like watch them go through like the mistakes before you make them. But inevitably, you're going to make your own mistakes, and you're going to have to learn for yourself. Like, my first relationship wasn't the greatest, um, but I think that could also be because that's all I've grown up with, kind of. It's just watching relationships not really last, and if they do, they probably should not be together, kind of thing. So it's very interesting. But I think maybe that's why there's a teensy bit of a hopeless romantic inside me, where I hope that there is better out there. I don't know what that better is, but So I don't know. There's like a couple of relationships that I do know in real life that are working out dandy and lovely and are very Christ-like, and that's what I hope for myself. But we shall see. I'm content by myself, and if that's just how it's supposed to be, that's how it's supposed to be. If I'm meant to meet someone, then I'm meant to meet someone. And in my opinion, I've already met that somebody, and that's kind of what this episode's about. But anyway. So the questions that Zoe has for me, which she typed out so quick, because I snapped her this morning asking if she could send me some questions, and she was already on it, like mid snap. And yeah, so there's 5 different questions that she has asked me, and hopefully that gets me through at least half of this episode, since I will try to make it through a full 30. But I don't know. Have faith in me, people, with what I can give. So question number 1. Why do you like K-pop? Well, it's kind of, I didn't really start out with K-pop. I'm gonna clarify. I actually grew up listening to a lot of J-pop. And by J-pop, I mean like Vocaloid. I was obsessed with Vocaloid growing up. Oh my goodness. I would like sit there and watch all the music videos. I absolutely loved the whole storyline of Servant of Evil. And oh my gosh, I went into so much depth with that. I don't know. I was crazy for them for the longest time. I knew some dances. Like my brother, he still makes fun of me to this day because I was popping and locking at like 10 years old to their music videos, and I just knew everything. And I thought I knew fluent Japanese. And so yeah, that was kind of like my exposure to any type of like um pop, I guess. Not pop, but you know where I'm going with this because obviously I discovered K-pop from that. Um but I didn't really get into K-pop until middle school. Because I when I was home alone, most of the time because my brother had football practice and whatnot, and my mom would go because she was like team mom and whatever. I would just sit at home and I would watch TV or whatever, or I would learn like dance moves from Vocaloid until I discovered that we had a K-pop channel. And I was like, what is K-pop? Oh my gosh, what do you mean? There's like more? And so, yeah, I stumbled across Mnet, and that's when I got exposed to Got 7, Big Bang. I loved Big Bang so much. Who else? Of course, BTS, because everyone has to be exposed to BTS if they're getting into K-pop at some point. Luna, Girls' Generation, of course. Um, Gee, what else? It escapes my mind. Oh, Zion T. I loved him. But he's a soloist. Um, I can't really think of any others on the top of my head, but Big Bang and Got7 were huge for me when I was in middle school. So that was my first exposure to them, but it didn't really form into anything until later when my cousin started to get into it because she actually started out with Vocaloid like I did because, I was like the ringleader of my cousins and siblings when I was younger. Or, well, my little brother, not my older sister, but my little brother growing up. And us being around the same age, I was just the ringleader. I would introduce them to things. I would lead the games. I always made up something for us to play. And so, of course, they just kind of followed. So whatever I liked, they liked. And yeah, so Vocaloid was kind of her exposure too. Until eventually she got really big into K-pop. And this was more recent for her. And now she's introducing me, or well, reintroducing me into that kind of world. And it's been super fun. Because obviously that's what this episode's about. So, question number 2. Why is it called a bias and not like, I don't know, a favorite? Love the wording. So I am gonna be real with you. I don't really know myself. I can take a good guess, that bias is kind of just more fun to use in the way that like, you know, no other member compares to that person who is your favorite. Like there's bias records. Oh, wreckers, not records. But there's bias wreckers who come close. They're like second best, but they're second best for a reason, and that's why they're a bias wrecker. They're not your favorite. But yeah, no one comes above that person for you, basically. Um, in what I understand, at least. Because, it's very weird because even though I was in the K-pop in middle school, I never actually got into like the terminology, and I never got too deep into that rabbit hole. I just kind of was like, yeah, I like these groups and I listen to them. And that was the extent of it. It was very surface level for me. So now that my cousin's into it, I'm actually like finding out even more, and I'm like, wait, what? There's this, and it's really funny because like even though I would brag to my cousin about being into K-pop before her, she looks at me and she's like, no, you're a fake fan. Okay, question number 3. Were you a hater before and now you like it, or were you kind of just okay with it? Kind of just like how I explained. Yeah, I guess I was just I'm pretty open, honestly. Especially when it comes to music, because when I work out, I listen to Bailey Funk. Love Bailey Funk. I have a whole playlist dedicated to that. Um, and then when I'm chilling, there's like a couple of Indian artists that I listen to. Um, love me instrumentals. Oh my goodness, I will always be down to listen to instrumentals. My favorite band ever is King's Kaleidoscope, but I will probably get more into detail on that for a later episode. Zoe and I have something planned about our music taste and whatnot, so that will probably be saved for that. And yeah, so I've just always been kind of open, and I've just always liked exploring new stuff. And yeah, so K-pop was gonna happen for me eventually. It was just inevitable because I like listening to new things. I like trying new things, tasting new things. My style is all over the place. I don't even think I really have an aesthetic. I'm like trying to pinpoint it, but I don't know. I feel like when you're an artist, when you're a writer, or any type of content creator, you can't really have an aesthetic unless it's for that aesthetic while you create things. You know, if that makes sense? Because there's too much in this world to just, I don't know, box yourself. But anyway, that's besides the point. That can be for a later episode. Um, question number 4. Something that you wish you could have done sooner. Wow. Okay, that was really deep, Zoe. I read these questions this morning to kind of like prep myself, but here I am still thinking on my question. Um, I didn't actually really think about it, to be honest. But something I wish I could have done sooner. Since this is K-pop related, I guess I'll just keep it to that. So, going to my first K-pop concert was a wild experience. I never actually thought it would happen, but it did finally happen. And geez, it was something else. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if I would want to experience if I would have wanted to experience that sooner in my life. Um or if this was really the right time. In my opinion, it kind of was. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I could have gotten into I could have gotten more in depth with K-pop sooner if I wanted to in middle school, like finding out like what biases are and all that terminology than I am now. But I don't know. I don't know. That is so deep of a question and just so out of the blue amongst the rest, but yeah. Um question number 5. I don't even think I really answered question number 4 all that greatly, but that was too deep for me to get into. Question number 5. A song everyone should listen to. Pyramid by P1 Harmony. I don't even gotta think about it. That is the song that you guys need to go listen to, especially if you're gonna listen to the rest of this episode. I'm trying to prepare you all, because if you don't know who P1 Harmony is at this point, then like, what are you doing? Especially if you follow my personal, because I just posted a bunch about that concert. I literally spammed the heck out of my story about going to this concert and how much I love Teo from P1 Harmony because this is what this episode's the rest of it is gonna be about. So, as I said, my cousin reintroduced me to the realm of K-pop, which is really neat. She didn't even think that she was going to get into K-pop because she didn't want to be known as like a K-pop girly. And if you know what I mean, by that, then you know what I mean. That's why I kind of warned you guys at the beginning of this that like this is what this episode's going to be about, because I'm pretty sure people at this point don't have a positive um first thought about K-pop when it comes to it, simply because some of the fans get downright crazy. And I've experienced this chaoticness firsthand, going to a couple of concerts now. And she has experienced it 10 times more because she's gone to way more than I have. She's actually gone to cons and stuff too. But yeah, so she reintroduced me to the realm of K-pop after being into like Thai dramas and Chinese dramas and stuff. So of course, it was kind of inevitable for her too. So as she explored that, she kind of just like would hit me up and be like, "Hey, go listen to Hypen. Hey, you should check out Stacy and stuff." And she would just like kind of, I don't know, in car rides, like just get me to listen to these songs and whatever. I think my first like reintroduction to K-pop was like with Stacy because I love the member J. I think she is fantastic. I think that it's so iconic that this youngest member has such a deep voice and is just like so bold and outgoing with it, because she's like the rapper in the group. And I just absolutely love everything about her. I think she is just amazing. So I guess she's like my bias in Stacy. But I don't even really I think it's an injustice for me to even say that I stan Stacy, you know? So on the other hand, I can confidently, without a doubt, tell you that I now stand P1 Harmony, even though I was a fake fan at first. So, back in February? No, sooner than that. It had to have been sooner. So I think it was like when they first announced that they were going on tour for like the first time, P1 Harmony, that Amaya, my cousin, decided to hit us up and was like, "Do you want tickets? Because I want someone to go with me to this." And, I was like, "Sure, why not?" Because, who doesn't, even if you do get like bad vibes from K-pop, you have to go to at least one concert. I've just always believed that even before I went to a K-pop concert. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. It's a once in a lifetime thing. Why not? $300 down. And yeah. So it was like November of 2021 where we started planning this. She was like so on it, so on top of it. She wanted these tickets so bad, and like the second that they like went on sale, they were like already sold out because it's a K-pop band or a K-pop group. And so she did a bunch of like searching, did a bunch of like running around. She almost got scammed like 3 different times. I'm like surprised that she didn't catch any type of like viruses or get scammed in any way. But yeah, Amaya's clever like that. And so she finally got us our tickets and we started planning. And I think the concert originally was supposed to happen in February of 2022, but it got moved because it got like COVID and whatever. And I just remember like panicking too because I was like, Amaya, I like already scheduled off of work. I can't like go back and whatever. But then I had to like schedule work off again and whatever. I ended up no wait. Oh, that's right. I ended up quitting anyway when the show got rescheduled. So it ended up like working out. But so yeah. We had to wait a couple more months before actually going on our LA trip. And by accident, my uncle got us even more tickets to P1 Harmony. So, what was going to be just a night of P1 Harmony turned out to be 2 nights. And yeah, so I got to see them 2 nights in a row. I'm sorry if you're jealous, but yeah, that's just how it worked out. And my bank account really, it really hurted for a while because of that. But um I am very thankful it did work out that way, because the second night is where it all happened for me. But before I can talk about that moment, I'm going to talk about how my first night went, because it was so surreal. Like, finally being in that theater, it's weird, like, leading up to that moment. You're just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to this. And the only type of concert exposure I've ever had before this were like at these festivals with Christian musicians. I actually got to see Matthew West, Mercy Me, Rent Collective. I've gotten to see them live, and I've gone to like dance to their music and stuff, and those were like super fun. So, um, thankfully, they came to like the city that I live in now, and I got to see them. That was a really cool experience. But a few years later, this is like my first concert exposure again, I guess. And in between that, I've only ever gone to like local bands. And I was in the punk scene. I've gone moshing before, yada yada. So I've never actually experienced anything this huge before. So going into this, it was kind of wild, because like we sat in these lines like hours before actually going in. Not the first night. I think the first night we just kind of like drove up there, and then we like prepared to go in like later. And so the second night is when we actually stood like 3.5 hours in line. And well, before I even talk about that, I'm going to talk about the first night, because that finally went down. And I just remember them entering the stage, girls screaming their ever living minds out, my ears going deaf. But the moment I could like recollect myself, I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. It was like so surreal of a moment. And they're just freaking perfectly dancing. They're aligning with each other. They're perfectly singing. It was angelic, to say the least. And my eyes were like immediately glued to Teo the entire time. And okay, before this, actually, Amaya assigned me and my other cousin a member, and we had to like remember their names, kind of look up facts about them, do our little homework, to act like we were actual fans. So, no one like questioned us or whatever, because kind of like K-pop fans are kind of crazy. So I just knew about Teo. And I kind of looked into other members, and I just kind of didn't really care. I was like, okay, I'm going for my cousin, and I just want to support her and her love for P1 Harmony. But the moment he stepped on stage, I swear my eyes were just glued to him, and only him. I didn't care about anyone else, anything else. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my bias. So yeah, second night, it became even more real for me, because that's when we stood 3.5 hours in line, and fans start passing out their freebies, and freebies are so cool. You guys get so creative with them. I love it. I think that makes the whole concert experience even more, that you guys have just so much support for these people, and you guys show it, so you guys express it like so amazingly. So here I am collecting a bunch of like freebies, and I'm just like sitting there, and I just keep asking for like Jiyoung freebies, because I'm like, oh, well, that's Amaya's bias, so I'll just give them to her. But there were a couple times where I did pull Teo, because like people didn't like actually ask what I wanted. They just kind of gave me what they had. And thankfully, it turned out that way. Because like, I'm not gonna lie, the trip was kind of weird. I wasn't really feeling myself. I was hormonal. I can't say that word for the life of me. But I was tired, I was hungry, I was sweating bullets just because of like the fit I was wearing. I was wearing like this bodysuit, this green bodysuit. Um and I don't know, I was kind of feeling like third wheeled. It just wasn't my trip, you know. I wasn't really feeling myself. And so second night wasn't really into it. I was just like, let's just get this over with, you know. And we had a hello session right after, which, you know, if you've ever gotten like that type of VIP access, it can take so long to finally get to see the idols in person. And so finally we're like lining up and whatever, like an hour and a half later, because they also had to do like their group photos first after the concert. And I just remember being like, okay, let's just go get this done and over with. It's only going to last 10 seconds anyway. You just wave and you just go. I wasn't even planning on waving. I was like so done, so tired, so hungry. I was not planning on like interacting whatsoever. But my gosh. So I walk by and I'm like just headed towards the door. I'm like so ready to exit out the venue. But all of a sudden, I see someone trying to get my attention. And I'm like, well, I can't ignore that. So I look over, it's Teo, and he's like leaning, he's seriously like making an effort to lean out of his chair and look up at me. And once we make eye contact, he gets like so excited. And he just starts waving at me. And he's just like, it just seems like he's flustered. And then I'm now flustered in that moment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this K-pop idol actually thinks I'm pretty. And it just felt like a Cinderella slipper moment. And it was crazy. And it only lasted for like a split second because the securities were like, you can't stop, keep going. The security are so rude, by the way, but I kind of understand because K-pop fans, again, they're wild, craziest people that you'll ever probably meet or encounter. So I get it. There's like a bunch of girls screaming, but for a second, like everything just like went quiet. And it was just so weird making eye contact with this K-pop idol who like made an effort to actually get my attention. Like he wanted my attention. And like just thinking about it now, it makes my hands shake. I'm not even joking because like I don't think I'm the prettiest girl, you know? But like all my insecurities did not matter in that moment. They just kind of melted away and I had a moment with him. And I just did like this little wave back and I had to just keep going. There was like nothing else I could do, but I could still feel like him staring at me as I left. And I like wanted to look back and just like wave again, but I knew that like that moment was gone. But man, the way that I still just like hold on to it because it just felt so special. And oh my gosh. I mean, obviously, by the way that I'm describing it right now, it happened. It had to have happened. So, you know, right then and there, I imprinted on Teo. And I am now a real P1 fan. I am now a piece, as they say. And yeah, Teo is definitely my bias. No one even comes close to him. I don't even have a bias record. And I think that it would be insulting if I did. But yeah, so I am terribly convinced that this man is in love with me and I'm in love with him. And this past concert that I went to, sure, you know, we didn't get to share a moment again, but I'm pretty sure when he said, I can't wait to meet some of my fans again, he was talking about me. And when he did that freaking Dean cover, it was towards me. And when he asked, can I be your Prince Charming to the crowd, it was directed at me. And no one can convince me otherwise that it was not. And I will die on that hill. I will gladly die on that hill. You know, the rest of you Teo Bias Piece 1 fans, whatever, you guys can come at me, but I have this on you. And yeah, checkmate, baby. So that's been my story, and I will gladly go to a P1 Harmony concert again because of it. And I guess I will just leave it at even if you don't feel like the prettiest girl in the room, you don't know if someone else is thinking that about you, because they could be thinking that you are the prettiest thing that they've ever seen. And that should be an encouragement, Like, not that I really think that anyone else's opinion of you really matters if it's not true. That right there, it just shows you that you can get the attention of someone like a K-pop idol if you really want to. No, if without trying, because I didn't try, and here I am, still dazed. So, but yeah, that is my story. This is the 7th episode of Swear We Aren't Lying, and I just thank you for tuning in and listen to me ramble about that. I'm sure a lot of this did not make sense. I'm sure a lot of it will not make sense to Zoe when she listens to it. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for sticking around, and I will see you in the next episode.